Hello, welcome back to my channel, ASMR Kitty. I wanted to read some fables from a book I have. It's not just a book of fables from Aesop, it has Grimm and Anderson too. So it's by Harvard Classics, and so it's a last copyright and printed in 1988. I have another one coming, and it's going to be it's the one that I had as a little girl. I found it on eBay, and I decided to get that one because it was made in 1961, and like I said, it's the one that I had as a little girl. And I like that one a little more. I want to just make I know most people are familiar with Aesop's Fables, and they're not particularly, some of them don't particularly end well because they're moral stories based on principles, so sometimes they don't end well. And some people don't like that, but it is what it is. So I hope you enjoy me reading, and I hope it gives you some relaxation. So I'll read in a lower tone. The Lion's Share. The lion went once a-huntin', along with the fox, the jackal, and the wolf. They hunted and they hunted, till at last they surprised a stag, and soon took its life. Then came the question of how the spoil should be divided. "Quarter me this stag," roared the lion. So the other animals skinned it and cut it into 4 parts. Then the lion took his stand in front of the carcass and pronounced judgment. "The first quarter is for me, and my capacity as king of beasts. The second is mine as arbiter. Another share comes to me for my part in the chase, and as for the 4th quarter, well, as for that, I should like to see which of you will dare to lay a paw upon it." "Humph!" grumbled the fox as he walked away with his tail between his legs, but he spoke in a low growl. "You may share the labors of the great, but you will not share the spoil." Remember this one? The Dog and the Shadow. It happened that a dog had a piece of meat and was carrying it home in his mouth to eat it in peace. Now on his way home he had to cross a plank lying across a running brook. As he crossed, he looked down and saw his own shadow reflected in the water beneath. Thinking it was another dog with another piece of meat, he made up his mind to have that also. So he made a snap at the shadow in the water, but as he opened his mouth, the piece of meat fell out, dropped into the water, and was never seen more. Beware lest you lose the substance by grasping at the shadow. That's the moral. The Fox and the Mask. A fox had, by some means, got into a storeroom of a theatre. Suddenly he observed a face glaring down on him, and began to be very frightened. But looking more closely, he found it was only a mask, such as actors use to put over their face. "Ah," said the fox, "you look very fine. It is a pity you have not any brains. Outside show is a poor substitute for inner worth." Let me see. The Jay and the Peacock. A jay, venturing into a yard where peacocks used to walk, found there a number of feathers which had fallen from the peacocks when they were molting. He tied them all to his tail and strutted down towards the peacocks. When he came near them, they soon discovered the cheat, and striding up to him, pecked at him and plucked away his borrowed plumes. So the jay could no better than go back to the other jays, who had watched his behavior from a distance, but they were equally annoyed with him and told him, "It is not only fine feathers that make fine birds." The Dog and the Wolf. A gaunt wolf was almost dead with hunger when he happened to meet a house dog who was passing by. "Ah, cousin," said the dog, "I knew how it would be. Your irregular life will soon be the ruin of you. Why do you not work steadily as I do, and get your food regularly given to you?" "I would have no objection," said the wolf, if I could only get a place." "I will easily arrange that for you," said the dog. "Come with me to my master, and you shall share my work." So the wolf and the dog went towards the town together. On the way there, the wolf noticed that the hair on a certain part of the dog's neck was very much worn away. So he asked him how that had come about. "Oh, it is nothing," said the dog. "That is only the place where the collar is put up on at night to keep me chained up. It chafes a bit, but one soon gets used to it." "Is that all?" said the wolf. "Then goodbye to you, master dog. Better starve free than be a fat slave." I like that one. The Lion and the Statue. A man and a lion were discussing the relative strength of men and lions in general. The man contended that he and his fellows were stronger than lions by reason of their greater intelligence. "Come now with me," he cried, "and I will soon prove that I am right." So he took him into the public gardens and showed him a statue of Hercules overcoming the lion and tearing his mouth in two. "That is all very well," said the lion, "but proves nothing, for it was a man who made the statue. We can easily represent things as we wish them to be." The Fox and the Lion. When first the fox saw the lion, he was terribly frightened, and ran away and hid himself in the wood. Next time, however, he came near the king of beasts, he stopped at a safe distance and watched him pass by. The third time they came near one another, the fox went straight up to the lion and passed the time of day with him, asking him how his family were, and when he should have the pleasure of seeing him again. Then, turning his tail, he parted from the lion without much ceremony. Familiarity breeds contempt. How about this one? The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. A wolf found great difficulty in getting at the sheep owing to the vigilance of the shepherd and his dogs. But one day it found the skin of a sheep that had been flayed and thrown aside, so it put it on over its own pelts, and strolling down among the sheep, the lamb that belonged to the sheep whose skin the wolf was wearing began to follow the wolf in the sheep's clothing. So, leading the lamb a little apart, he soon made a meal of her, and for some time he succeeded in deceiving the sheep and enjoying a hearty meals. Appearances are deceptive. Oh, this is a good one. The Crow and the Pitcher. A crow, half dead with thirst, came upon a pitcher which had once been full of water. But when the crow put its beak into the mouth of the pitcher, he found that only very little water was left in it, and that he could not reach far enough down to get at it. He tried and he tried, but at last had to give up in despair. Then a thought came to him, and he took a little pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped that into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped that into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped that into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped that into the pitcher. At last, he saw the water mount up near him, and after casting in a few more pebbles, he was able to quench his thirst and save his life. Little by little does the trick. I love this one. This one's one of my favorite ones from Aesop. The Wind and the Sun. The wind and the sun were disputing which was stronger. Suddenly they saw a traveler coming down the road, and the sun said, "I see a way to decide our dispute. Whichever of us can cause that traveler to take off his cloak shall be regarded as the stronger. You begin." So the sun retired behind a cloud, and the wind began to blow as hard as it could upon the traveler. But the harder he blew, the more closely the traveler wrapped his cloak around him, till at last the wind had to give up in despair. Then the sun came out and shone in all its glory upon the traveler, who soon found it too hot to walk with his cloak on. Kindness effects more than severity. That's the moral. The Fox Without a Tail. It happened that a fox caught its tail in a trap, and in struggling to release himself lost all of it but the stump. At first he was ashamed to show himself among his fellow foxes, but at last he determined to put a bolder face upon his misfortune, and summon all the foxes to a general meeting to consider a proposal which he had to place before them. When they had assembled together, the fox proposed that they should all do away with their tails. He pointed out how inconvenient a tail was when they were pursued by their enemies, the dogs, how much it was in the way when they desired to sit down and hold a friendly conversation with one another. He failed to see any advantage in carrying about such a useless encumbrance. "That is very well," said one of the older foxes, "but I do not think you would have recommended us to dispense with our chief ornament if you had not happened to lose it yourself." Distrust interested advice. I like this one, The Fox and the Goat. By an unlucky chance, a fox fell into a deep well from which he could not get out. A goat passed by shortly afterwards, and asked the fox what he was doing down there. "Oh, have you not heard?" said the fox. "There's going to be a great drought, so I jumped down in here in order to be sure to have water by me." Why don't you come down too?" The goat thought well of his advice, and jumped down into the well. But the fox immediately jumped on her back, and by putting his foot on her long horns managed to jump up to the edge of the well. "Goodbye, friend," said the fox. "Remember next time, never trust the advice of a man in difficulties." The Wolf and the Lamb. Once upon a time, a wolf was lapping at a spring on the hillside, when looking up, what should he see but a lamb just beginning to drink a little lower down. "There's my supper," thought he. "If only I can find some excuse to seize it." Then he called out to the lamb, "How dare you muddle the water from which I am drinking?" "Nay, master, nay," said Lambikin. "If the water was muddy up there, I cannot be the cause of it, for it runs down from you to me." "Well then," said the wolf, "why did you call me bad names this time last year?" "That cannot be," said the lamb, "for I am only 6 months old." I don't care, snarled the wolf. If it was not you, it was your father. And with that he rushed upon the poor little lamb and row, 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 ate her all up. But before she died, she gasped out, "Any excuse will serve a tyrant." And that is the end of the Aesop's tales in this book. So I hope you enjoyed my little rhymes and or little stories from Aesop's Fables. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was calming and relaxing. And I hope you all have a great day and a great evening. Ciao.